Good evening, or whatever time it is for you, and welcome to the second round of the EIS Proxy race at South Manchester Slot Racing Club. I'm going to do a few videos, just shakedown of the cars in the different classes. This isn't timed, this is just to make sure they all go around the track the right way round and everything's working as it should be. But whilst I'm doing that, I'll run through the cars and the classes and give you a bit of feedback on what they're like to drive here on Three Rivers track in South Manchester. So starting with Class A, we have the Team Cube Corvette C6R, number 64. It looks fairly standard from what I know anyway. SCX layout, bit of wobble in the pod, quite grippy tyres and free moving. Very nice car. I think I might have seen it here at South Manchester before, but probably had a bit of work done on it since then, so we'll see how it goes now.
Private 3 is left. Private 3 is left. Private 3 is left.
So that was very smooth, Team Cube. Hopefully you could see it on the video. Very smooth, nice amount of grip. No problems with it running at all. It seemed absolutely fine. The guide managed to stay in the track perfectly fine. So that seems like it's going to be a good runner. Next up is Lifeboat Racing's Porsche 962. It's got a fantastic livery. I like the transition from the blue to the orange. I don't know if you can pick that up very well on the camera, but it's really nicely done. Very nice looking car. 3D chassis with a sort of floating, slightly sprung pod. The guide is very, very stiff. I don't know if that's to do with the wiring or maybe the axle. The front axle is a little bit stiff as well, but the tyres look fairly grippy, and it's got quite a good weight to it. A bit of weight around a wooden track always helps because there's no magnet attraction whatsoever, so a little bit of weight does help keep it planted. Let's give it a go. Okay, there you go. That wasn't too bad. It's a little bit of bounce to it. Not sure. I mean, the tyres do look fairly round. I think they look pretty round, but there was a little bit of bounce into the chassis. But it had a fairly decent turn of pace. Didn't feel slow particularly, despite the front wheels not turning massively. It was very stable, very steady, so it should be quite easy to push it when it comes to the actual timed runs. Next up, we have Savage GT, a BMW V12 LMP, which looks really nice. Got a really nice finish to the car. I'm not sure if it's Scalextric or Ninko or what it is. I think a few people made these. It's got a 3D chassis, a very stiff one by the looks of it, which will probably bode well on this circuit. And the wheels are very nice, tyres seem quite tacky, so that bodes quite well. Let's see how it does. That was very nice and smooth, had quite a turn of pace to it, quite a bit of acceleration, probably the most so far I would say. It's very low and very wide, so it runs very nicely. I think that's going to be a good car. Everything seems to be running freely and floating nicely as you would want. So that's a really good one. Next up, we have Harrison's Racers Mercedes CLK, one of two Mercedes CLK, I think, in this class. This nice blue model, that's a slotted universal chassis that's gone in there quite nicely. The tyres feel nice and tacky, although it looks like one might have been rubbing on the motor shaft at one point, so you've only got about 3/4 of a tyre on that side. But it's running quite nice and free. It seems like it could be quite nice. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so there seems to be quite a bit of drag emanating from somewhere. The tyres are quite sticky, but it seems more than that. It might be that this tyre is still rubbing on the motor shaft a little bit. Not sure how easily you can see that. I'll have a little look and see if there's anything obviously untoward before the final heats. It wasn't running badly, it just felt like it was dragging a bit. The front wheels maybe slightly rubbing on the bodywork. I'll have a look before the proper heat and just check that it's nothing untoward before running it. Next up is Scott Sport Jag XJ220. Another nice looking car, Michelin livery. And a 3D chassis, very similar to one we've already seen, which I've forgotten, but with that sort of semi-floating sprung motor pod. It feels pretty firm, so that should be good for around here. Everything seems to be moving quite freely and quite nicely. Let's give it a go. There we go. So that had quite a turn of pace to it, actually, quite quick off the line. It was stepping out a lot through the corners. The track is very dusty. I haven't cleaned it up or anything before doing these test runs. So when it runs in the actual timed laps, it might find actually you've just got a bit more grip because the track's in a bit better condition. But it was a little bit skittish and a little bit stepping out of line, but certainly got a decent turn of pace to it. Next up is my own Team Tatter's Mercedes Scalextric AMG. This was actually a replacement car because my original Porsche LMP broke at some point on the way to Graham, I imagine. So this is standard Scalextric chassis and lights. I put in some metal wheels all round, tyres, a new guide, etc. But it's the standard chassis and body. So we'll see how this goes.
Private 3 is left. Private 3 is left.
So, as you would expect, this is the track that I race on every other week, so the car's pretty well sorted for this track. It hasn't actually ever run on this track before because, as I say, it was a replacement car at the last minute, but I broadly know what needs to be done to make it go nice around here. It's super fast, sharp 20k motor in there, by far the quickest off the line that we've had so far, but not that good around the corners, unfortunately. Could have done with a bit more weight, I think, over the rear, maybe a bit more weight everywhere, very skittish. Next up is BAR Racer or Bar Racer Astra. I guess a Scalextric Astra, Hornby, yeah. A Scalextric Astra with some lovely wheels that looks fantastic. It's nice and wide, obviously a bit taller than an LMP car and that sort of thing, but it is pretty maximised on the width there. The guide is very little movement or very stiff. I can't really tell at this point. Well, maybe that's okay. It did feel a bit stiff, but maybe it's just coming straight out of the box. But everything else about it looks very nice, and that's got quite a decent weight to it as well. So let's give it a go. So a super smooth and quiet runner, had quite a nice turn of pace. As you might have been able to see, or it might have just been off camera, I did have a little bit of an off around the hairpin. It was a little bit tippy the first time round and I didn't pay attention to that and went a little bit quicker the second time round and tipped over. No damage, nothing dramatic. But that's, I think, is just because of the shape of the case, the car being a touring car more than GT or LMP car, but it was very smooth and the tyres felt very good. So with a cleaner track, a bit more of a running track, that could go really well. Last but not least, we have Roadrunners Mercedes CLK. May have been around here before. I've seen a lot of CLKs in Proxy, so I'm not sure which ones are which, if they're the same. But this is, I think that's the scale Extric body. It's got a nice 3D printed chassis with, I'm not sure if that's exactly the same design as before, but one of these sort of semi-sprung floating pods, which seem to go quite nicely. I can see it's a Shark motor that's printed on there, so that's a nice easy one for me. Sidewinder seems to be running quite smoothly. Yeah, it looks quite good. I'll give it a go. Very nice. So yeah, a bit of everything, that one. Quite good speed, not the fastest, but quite good speed, quite good grip. It's got a very long guide to axle, which on this track is really, really useful. I did mention a hairpin earlier, but compared to a home track, it's nowhere near a hairpin. It's still quite a wide corner. So it's mostly fast flowing long corners, so a long guide to rear axle length is really useful around here, and that's definitely got it, and a good weight. So very smooth, very nice, just whether it has the ultimate pace at the end of the day, but it's a really good car. I think that's all of them for Class A. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it was a little bit helpful for what goes well around here. And good luck in your heats.